They're doing it the whole month. Oh. It was one of the ladies that was on the thing.
Hey, what's up? I'm sorry to keep you all waiting. You have women fanning up here.
Yes.
All right, so let me try to get through this so that we can get to the questions and we can get into a cooler room. But good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to acknowledge October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and recognize my colleagues, Alderwoman Pat Dow, Alderwoman Michelle Harris, who are breast cancer survivors, and all of the survivors that are standing here today. And I'm also grateful that we're being joined by our other alderperson of the 33rd Ward, Rosanna. It's good to see you. Every year, there are nearly 2.3 million new cases and 685,000 deaths from breast cancer worldwide. And this means that all of us here today can say that we know someone or know of someone who has fought this disease. While we have seen a 40% decrease in the deaths from breast cancer, these numbers are still too high, especially amongst Black women. This month, as we wear our pink ribbons and celebrate, we certainly have a lot to be grateful for of what we've accomplished. But let's also remember how far we still have to go. October is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm honored to have advocates standing here with me today. It is our duty as city leaders to lead a compassionate, collaborative response to end the cycle of violence in our communities. In the last few years, the city of Chicago has been focused on addressing the issue of gender-based violence and domestic violence, including the development of Chicago's first ever strategic plan to address gender-based violence as well as human trafficking. That work will continue and expand in my administration as we realize our vision for a better, stronger, and a much safer Chicago. And while we're on the subject of public safety, I want to address the issue of robberies that are plaguing our city, which along with our new arrival mission, is at the top of mind of many Chicago residents, and is certainly top of mind for your mayor. While our numbers around shootings and homicides are improving, we have seen an uptick in motor vehicle theft and robbery incidents. Know that this is an issue that I take extremely seriously, as these incidents are extremely traumatic and can have lasting impact on a person's life, and even much worse. I want residents to know that under my leadership and the leadership of our newly appointed superintendent, Larry Snelling, the Chicago Police Department is determined to analyze and identify these robbery patterns as quickly as possible. And with this information, the department will utilize all resources, technology that's at our disposal to identify, apprehend, and charge these individuals who are terrorizing the people of Chicago. And finally, I'm proud to celebrate today, the City Council voted to approve the establishment of the Mental Health System Expansion Working Group. This is a critical step towards the implementation of treatment, not trauma, and making our city a more compassionate and safer place. Again, I am grateful for the leadership of our Alder, Rosanna. Thank you for your leadership and your love for the people of Chicago. I want to thank City Council today for approving this ordinance, and I look forward to working as the group puts together recommendations and next steps. And so now with that, I will take questions.
Mayor, I'm a little bit off topic. Can you talk a little bit about if and to what extent your concerns are about the growing number of migrants who are coming into town and how that might affect planning for the Democratic Convention?
Thank you for that question. I've always been concerned about this. This is an issue that during the transition, we began to work towards coming up with solutions to address what we knew was coming. You know, last month, all of you were privy to the plan that we have put forth. And 14 buses today, we're getting word that it could be as many as 22. You know, this is a growing crisis, not just for the city of Chicago, but for the entire globe. The population shift that we are experiencing as a result of the failure of federal policies is now impacting the people of Chicago in a very dramatic way. And so that's why I've been standing up a brand new shelter every single week. We've renegotiated a contract that I inherited multiple times to cut the cost on services. A month ago, I expressed to you all that we are not just simply looking for brick and mortar, but we have these base camps that we are prepared to drive stakes in the ground to be able to meet this moment. It's a tremendous sacrifice for the people of Chicago, and I certainly recognize how hard it has been for the people of Chicago. But what I do know for sure, without action, the type of chaos that the Republican Party is causing, it's going to be greater. And so we need shared responsibility from every single level of government. And so my concern did not start last week. It didn't start today. I've been concerned about this. And this is why, for the first time in the history of Chicago, we have a deputy mayor dedicated to this very issue. We knew this was coming. The type of governance or lack of governance that we're seeing from the Republican Party, we've been knowing this. This is the same party that tried to overturn an election. You can't put anything past these individuals. So absolutely, they want to punish Chicago for being the greatest freaking city in the world. But we're going to continue to band together, do our part to make sure that we're showing up for people who have needed the government to respond to their critical needs for generations now. And that's why I'm making sure that we have mental health services, bringing Chicago home, abolishing the sub-minimum wage. That as much as I'm concerned about this issue, I have not stopped leading on my values, and I won't.
Hi, Mayor.
We can hear you.
Can you talk about why you decided to welcome NASCAR back to Chicago in 2024? And will the city council be asked to approve the permits for the race?
Well, first of all, my administration has been in constant communication with NASCAR. And what NASCAR has been willing to do has cut the time at the beginning of the race and as well as at the end of the race to shorten the time of disruption that has taken place. We also got a better deal for the people of Chicago, where NASCAR has agreed to invest towards costs that they didn't do before. And we've worked with the alders who are most impacted by NASCAR, and we will continue to collaborate and work with people to make sure that the people of Chicago get the best possible deal.
And on the Bring Chicago Home public hearing, do you remain confident that the people of Chicago will approve this tax given the pressures on the commercial property values in the downtown area, or are you concerned that that will worsen the state of downtown real estate?
68,000 people are unhoused in the city of Chicago. Everyone agrees that this is, it's an embarrassment. Everyone agrees. And what I'm confident in is that the people of Chicago will come together to address this need. Look, the way this plan is laid out, 96% of people will receive a tax break. And businesses are still coming to Chicago. You all are reporting on it. Expansion continues to happen. Development continues to happen. And it's happening under my administration because we're bringing people together. And so, of course, you're going to have some push and pull. That's what democracy does. But we don't panic.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
You mentioned the working group on treatment, not trauma. Obviously, your budget address next week, though, provides a more immediate opportunity to implement some of the pieces of that policy. Can we expect to see the reopening of any mental health clinics in your budget? And if so, how many or what other pieces?
Well, that's a good question. Here's the good news is that I get to pass multiple budgets. All right. And so you're not going to undo the type of trauma that has been executed against the people of Chicago in one budget. Right. And what I'm confident in is that we have a working group that is going to come up with recommendations, because that's what I do as mayor. I collaborate, I listen to people to come up with recommendations that best moves us forward. The good news is this, though. We're talking about reopening mental health centers. Who would have thought? That's good news, Chicago. We're having conversations that we weren't having in the last administration. Certainly not the previous administration. I am so grateful that the people of Chicago believe in the people of Chicago. So this budget address will address what I said when I was running for office. Remember? When I put together my budget plan, I said that the deficit was going to be roughly where it is today, $500 million. I've always told people the truth. We'll continue to do that, and we're going to trust the leadership of the working group to provide recommendations of how we move forward. Thank you.
Your administration has said that the mayor's office will be responsible for holding Garda World accountable. Can you say specifically how your office will do so? Should Garda World be expecting inspections, regular monitoring, and with what resources will you?
Well, first of all, with Garda World, the city of Chicago, we're just simply responding to the fact that the state already had a contract with them. So this is what's allowing us to move with some expedition, right? And yes, my administration, along with our alders, will continue to monitor to make sure that this company, this entity, is not violating the trust of the people of Chicago.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
As you're aware, there's been a sponsored resolution to add a referendum to the primary in March, asking voters if the city should keep Chicago as a designated sanctuary city. What are your thoughts on Chicago's designation and the possibility of having voters decide?
Well, look, I'm grateful that the city of Chicago historically has embraced not just immigrants, but migration in general. So this is not the first time the city of Chicago has had to deal with this. So my father, he's the oldest, and he came up from Salis, Mississippi, 57 north. And people in Chicago hated it. As more and more black people began to migrate in Chicago, people hated it. But yeah, here we be. So this conversation about, the city of Chicago wanting to question its values, that's what the Republicans want us to do. They are so chaotic that they can't even figure out how to secure their own power. There's not even a Speaker of the House. So the type of chaos and disruption that they are causing and creating, as Chicagoans, as difficult as this has been, what I'm calling on are these alders who have put forth this resolution, join the choir. Join the choir in pushing the federal government, the state government to continue to share the responsibility. That's what leadership does. That's what I'm doing.
And Mayor, to alleviate some of the constraints at shelters, cities like Denver have introduced limits on the amount of time that migrants can stay there. Is that something that has been explored here?
Yes.
And if not, why not?
Yes, that has been explored. Thank you.
We try to stick to one question.
Yeah, because these women up here are fanning y'all. Listen, I'm trying to answer as many questions as possible, but I'm trying to be thorough. Yeah, everybody got their hand raised.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Jim Daly, Southside Weekly. Mutual aid volunteers estimated at last week's committee meeting that they've spent more than $3 million supporting new migrants. And some have described the relationship between your office and volunteers as, quote, exploitative. What are you doing to make that relationship more equitable? And what resources has or will the city provide to volunteers?
Well, as I said repeatedly, there was a contract with, favored staffing? Is that that's favored staffing? Remember when I was left with the responsibility to have the $51 million secured? And remember I told you all that $47 million went to staffing? Remember, I told you all that, right? Because that's what transparent leadership looks like. 47% of those dollars went to staffing. That's why, hold on, just be patient, okay? That's why we renegotiated that contract that includes hiring Chicagoans, because I know how hard these folks who are providing mutual aid are working. So we're literally creating job opportunities for Chicagoans to provide the care. And so, look, we just named, for the first time in the history, someone who was dedicated to homelessness in the city of Chicago, a chief homelessness officer. I am responding to every single dynamic in this city and have not flinched. Of course, I appreciate the work that those who are providing support on the front lines are doing. I've done that work before. Who better to understand what organizers go through than someone who's been an organizer? And that's why we are renegotiating these contracts so that Chicagoans can get the resources to provide the services that these migrants want. So it essentially becomes a win-win for everyone in a very difficult situation.
Hey, Mayor. I don't know if this is working.
It is working.
Can you hear me? Oh, great.
Very well.
Thank you. On the campaign trail, you talked a lot about improving the CTA service reliability. Can you tell me a little bit about what your administration has done to follow through on those promises so far? And do you believe there's an accountability problem still at the top of the CTA?
Well, as you saw today, that there's conversations about regular committee hearings around accountability. And you know that there is an extension that's happening on the red line, and we're going to make sure, we're going to ensure, quite frankly, that the opportunities that come with the multi-billion-dollar investment doesn't just create a pathway to be able to access goods and services, but that the people who actually get to do the work to build a better transportation system reflect those who rely upon public accommodations the most.
Can you talk a little bit about what, if anything, you've done so far to improve service, to improve safety, cleanliness on CTA?
As I've said, first of all, safety, particularly safety on transportation system, the last I checked, that violence is down. Violence is down. That's because we're working with people. We have a new superintendent who's going to continue to collaborate with all of our stakeholders to ensure that. But here's the thing that I want people to remember. We have vacancies right now within CTA. We do. We need train operators. We need bus operators. And so I'm calling on the people of Chicago to lean in. The job opportunities that are available, the vacancies that exist in every single level of government, I want you to come serve this administration. I want you to come and serve this city. Because that's how we're going to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, is when we have W-2s. And W-2s are available for you. Thank you.
Mayor, could we just clarify at the top, you talked about the 14 buses. The release we received said 13, and then you also mentioned there could be 22.
That's how chaotic it is. That's quite frankly how chaotic it is. That, you know, at one point, there was a little bit of decorum that you didn't just send buses in the middle of the night. They're now breaking curfew. They're sending buses in the middle of the night. And so that number continues to change throughout the day.
So it could be 22 today.
It could be as many as 22 today.
All right, I just wanted to clarify. Could you also respond to Alderman Beal's concerns about the people, the migrants dropped off at the 9th Police District? He said it's a district where sex offenders register. There's now women and children. He believes it's illegal to have the migrants at his district.
Well, look, this is why I've been working hard to remove people out of police districts. That's why I'm standing up a brand new shelter every single week. We have these base camps that a contract that was already signed by the state of Illinois. We're moving forward with that. This administration, my administration, is working in collaboration with all of our stakeholders to make sure that whether it's police districts or whether there are the airports, that people are not living on floors. And we're working hard to actually build an operation and apparatus that alleviates that pressure in our police districts.
And on NASCAR, 2 aldermen already have said they would like to have been consulted. They're aldermen from downtown. They really don't want NASCAR back. Why, then, did you decide that it
Of the 5 alders that represent downtown, 4 of them have already expressed their commitments. And we're going to continue to have conversations with every single alder person to make sure that we get the best possible deal, which here's the thing that's exciting, though. The fact that NASCAR has agreed to change its operation so that the time of that has been, that we saw this first year as a tremendous inconvenience because of how long a NASCAR needed to set up and break down, we reduced that by 6 days. I believe 4 on the front end, 2 on the back end. And we got them to commit to additional resources to be able to pay towards public safety and all the other costs that come with it. So it's a better deal than what I inherited, and we're going to continue to have conversations with individuals that might have questions about NASCAR. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Question for you. We're hearing reports that there is already a DHS crew, Homeland Security team on the ground here in Chicago to assess the situation, to provide some kind of resource help for your administration. What can you tell us about when they got here and what you're hoping they can do for Chicago? Well,
again, first of all, them being here to assess what the people of Chicago have been saying and what I've been saying well before I was even sworn in. I've been to D.C. multiple times. I've been to Springfield, all over the city of Chicago, working to bring people together to share in the sacrifice of this crisis. Based upon our interactions thus far, it is becoming increasingly clear that those who want to disrupt our democracy are committed to doing that. It's a real mission of theirs. And so our hope is that we will continue to get more resources and a stronger commitment from the federal government to be able to provide us with the support that the people of Chicago need.
But they are here already, just
Yes.
to clarify. And when did they arrive?
I don't know. When did they arrive? Today? Today's Wednesday, right? Yes, today.
They just arrived today. Also, just to follow up on that, there's whispers that your administration may be sending a team to the border, perhaps to try to either assess the situation, discourage migrants from coming to Chicago. What can you tell us?
So there are no whispers. My administration, we don't whisper. We just talk out loud. I've said, you're welcome. I hope you all enjoy me talking out loud. We need to go assess the situation. Just like our team has gone to D.C., we need better coordination, quite frankly. You know, this is a dynamic but here's the thing. I recognize what our southern states are dealing with. And so going to see it firsthand, I had a chance to sit with some leaders from Mexico. And at the tip of Mexico, 2,500 or so families who are seeking asylum reach the southern tip of Mexico. By the time they get to the northern tip of Mexico, right on the borders of our country, that 2,500 amasses to anywhere from 7,500 individuals to 10,000. This is serious, and I've been saying it. I mean, this ain't the first time you've heard me say how serious this dynamic is. And so I'm doing my part to continue to make sure that Chicagoans who have been in this city, who have needed support, and particularly our black families. I know there's been a tremendous burden, particularly on black Chicago. I am fully aware of that. Y'all know where I live. Y'all know how many schools have been shut down in Austin, mental health clinics. Administration after administration has taken away from black people, not mine. And I want to make this point very clear as well. We're trying to make sure that migrants are not on floors. So when individuals say that black folks want what migrants want, it's not true. It's not. Black folks want what they deserve. And to compare the needs of black people to individuals who are being forced out of their countries because of bad foreign policy, who are living on floors, comparing the conditions in which descendants of slaves have had to endure to migrants who are sleeping on floors, I question how much you actually care and love about black people and understand their conditions. And so I got you. Because we speak out loud. So going to the border is to make sure that everybody knows that my administration is committed to making sure that we are putting together the full force of government at every single level to ensure that these families, who, by the way, they're not illegal. They're asylum seekers. They are protected by international law. So you have individuals who are trying to play on the fear of black folks that many of the folks who are trying to play on their fear ain't done nothing to help black people. So yes, Craig, we're going to assess the full situation, and that also requires our team to be at the border. Thank you very much.
When do you go, sir?
I mean, y'all want to know all my business today?
Justin.
Soon.
Like in a week, 2 weeks?
Soon. Justin.
Just to clarify, when is the team?
Soon as possible. Look, I'm still running a major city. I have children who attend schools who have soccer games, y'all. You know, you all are asking me as if I'm not a parent in this city. I get it, I'm mayor, I get it, but you're asking me to give you a date and I have to do you understand that you have not had a mayor like me? I get that. I have a wife, I have children, they have schedules. And plus, we still have public safety that we have to address. We still have the unhoused that we have to address. I still have a budget that I have to address. And I'm doing all of that with a black wife raising 3 black children on the west side of the city of Chicago. I am going to the border as soon as possible. But I got to coordinate that with running the government and making sure that my wife and children are secure as well. Thank you, Lawrence.
Okay. Can you clarify?
You have another question. So you had one question asked 4 different times. All right, go ahead.
I was following up for a colleague. Can you clarify on the NASCAR contract? You're saying more revenue will come to the city as part of this.
No. Just hold on. Wait, repeat that again.
You're saying more revenue will come to the city from NASCAR to offset.
No. Okay. Yeah, finish that. I'm sorry. I want to make sure that I'm hearing your question right. So when you're talking about more revenue, you're talking about the additional agreement to make sure that the cost of this, that there's a better deal. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you clarify? I mean, has that number been set? Is it a percentage? How much more will come to the city? And then can you also address? I've spoken to each of the downtown aldermen. None of them have said that that they knew an agreement had been reached, and a few, including Bill Conway, are critical of that, saying they would have liked to be brought in, collaborated with on the details of the contract.
We have spoken to all 5 of the alders who are impacted by NASCAR, particularly because it exists within their wards. And 4 of them understand and have made my administration clear that they appreciate the negotiations that have taken place. And of course, there's still work to be done. As far as the actual amount on that revenue, we'll get that to you.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Regarding your delegation going to the border, I've heard that the goal is to convince migrants not to come to Chicago during winter time. Is that true?
No. Are there other questions? And thank you for not always believing what you hear and asking me directly. I appreciate that.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
So there was a proposal that is reintroduced today from under the prior administration to create an Office of Legislative Counsel for the City Council from Riley and Beal. Do you think that aldermen should have their own separate legislative council, and should they be able to consult them during meetings?
We have a corporate council that works not just with, serves at the pleasure of my administration, but he also works with our city council members. I know this has come up before. Our corporate council has been quite responsive in a way that, quite frankly, has been transformative. The type of engagement that my corporate council leads is one that the city council members have wanted. Now, as far as individuals who want something different, democracy allows for that to be debated.
Do you think a legislative council could help avoid the kind of maneuvering that happened today with motions to table and, I don't know?
Those are rules. There's no corporate or there's no legislative council that would disrupt the rules. The rules are the rules. The rules are actually secured by the city council. We've configured those rules. That's not even in the hands of corporate counsel. Thank you, though.
Good afternoon, Mayor. On the new NASCAR deal, are you changing who is paying for setup and teardown and what you're charging them for the permit?
Could you ask that one more time?
I just know that a lot of critics this year talked about the NASCAR deal being unfavorable to the city. They specifically mentioned those provisions, like who's paying for setup, teardown, and the permit being $500,000 only. Is that changing at all?
We have not made, that determination of whether or not that should change or live. What I've said is what I've said, is that the setup and the teardown, we've condensed that, and NASCAR is committed to making sure that there are resources available through NASCAR to make sure that they are providing the support that the city deserves.
And a quick follow-up, do you agree with your floor leader's decision last week to call out the governor, and is this a sign of tension to come?
Everyone has to do more in this moment. Everyone. Look, as I just articulated, the city of Chicago, we're doing our part. We are. Every day. I have conversations with our alders, who are fielding phone calls, residents calling concerned, because they want the government to be responsive to their needs. And the reason why I'm lifting that up is because, there are 3 alders that are with me today that love their constituents. And trust me, 33rd Ward, 3rd Ward, and the 8th Ward. And not that I don't get calls from other alder people, but the 3 that are here today, they make sure that I hear about the calls that they're getting. And they do it with a smile. We do need every single level of government to do more, because you're asking the city of Chicago to do more. And that's who we are as a people. But at some point, that burden gets a little heavier. And all the people of Chicago are saying is that we need a little bit of help to lift this so that the burden doesn't solely fall on us.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Batting cleanup. You've talked about the robberies and wanting to use every resource available in the technology. does that technology include ShotSpotter, whether it's, I'm talking more the technology as opposed to the company, but has a decision been made about going forward with that technology?
Well, let me just thank you for the question, Craig, and thank you for your work. The trauma and the pain that the people of Chicago are experiencing because of these robberies and these carjackings, it's terrorizing our people. And that trauma is harsh. And I want the people of Chicago to know that every single waking moment, I'm working with the full force of government to make sure that the arrests that are taking place, the work that we are doing, we're bringing these brutal, terrorizing individuals to justice, because it has caused so much harm and it's wreaked havoc. And so when I say the full force of government and using all forms of technology, I mean that. As far as ShotSpotter is concerned, everybody knows my values and the concerns that I have around ShotSpotter. Everybody knows that. But as I said to Superintendent Stelling, that I'm willing to listen to him. However, what we have seen and the concerns around ShotSpotter and what we've done thus far has not necessarily yielded the type of results that the people of Chicago want. And so to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, we need the full force of government. That's why we have a deputy director that's committed to community safety. We're working with all of our city departments, our sister agencies, to do the same, to lean in, to make sure that we're making critical investments. And let me just say this last part, because I don't want it to be lost on people. 24,000 young people applied, had summer jobs. 24,000. That's a 20% increase from the last year. 46,000 young people applied. I don't think there's a coincidence that we're seeing violence reduction, particularly in homicides and shootings, as we work hard to increase opportunities for young people. And so we have to do both and. Deal with the immediate dynamic using the full force of government to address the terror that these individuals are causing and making sure we're bringing them to justice, while also making sure that we're making the critical investments that lead towards a better, safer, stronger Chicago. Thank you all very much.